Hello everyone, we are back with a new video. So, tell me, who likes Attack on Titan? Well, I know I do, so I'm gonna be working today on Mikasa Ackerman. It's an amazing model made by CA 3D Studios, and you can find a link to their Patreon in the description. So, judging by the last video and the positive feedback that I got, seems like you guys like this kind of step-by-step guide videos where I take you through from start to finish on how to make and paint these models. That's why we're gonna do the same thing here. I'm gonna give you the list of all the colors I used on these models right now. Here it goes. And this is practically everything you need in order to follow along. If you see me using some kind of gadgets in the video, I will add Amazon affiliate link in the description so you can check it out. The goal of the video is the same. I want you to be able to follow along easily and end up with the same result as me, or at least very close by. So if you like what I got at the end and you wanna end up with the same kind of model, I'm gonna do my best to guide you through and tell you what I liked, what I didn't like, what I would repeat or not, and just guide you through the whole process. So, hope you enjoyed the video and you end up with a model that you will be proud of, and maybe learn a bit of stuff here and there. So, let's go quickly through the usual process. We print it, we wash it, we cure it. And also cure it inside if you can. I made this handmade gadget where I attached UV LED lights and powered it by the battery so I can push them inside of the model through the drain holes. It just gives me more security that everything is cured and I won't have any problems later. Now for the fun parts, let's sand and sand again. You know the drill, use the mask. You can also use spray boot like I use it here. I remove the back filter and let it suck out all the dust. Be sure to dry fit all the parts before you say you're done. You don't want to paint them and then end up with the parts that don't really click with one another. Glue together all the parts that make sense. It will be quicker and easier to paint them together. Put the drain holes to good use and shove some sticks into them so you can easily manipulate the parts while you're painting them. If you have any holes that you must fill, do it now. For the holes like here, where we don't have a supports inside that can hold the milliput, this is the technique that I use. I just shove it into the hole, remove the extra parts of the milliput and let it dry like this. After it dries, I use a precision knife to cut the top part and just sand it flat. Also, if you have parts like this, where you don't have any holes that you can use for the sticks, don't be afraid to make them yourself. You see me here drilling a little hole in the support part where I'm gonna show the stick so I can easily paint it. That's pretty much it for the preparations, so let's get to the fun part and start painting. We're gonna start with the black primer from Vallejo. Make 2 thin coats instead of 1 thick one. You'll preserve the details better and get a nicer finish. I'm not gonna repeat this every time, but remember, pretty much everything I do with the airbrush I do in 2 to even 3 thin coats. I'm gonna tell you if one is enough, but if I don't tell you nothing, assume that I sprayed it at least 2 times. After everything is primed, let it dry and we will continue on with the skin tones. We don't have a lot of skin to cover, just the hands and head. So let's start with the white ink from Vallejo. Just cover all the black parts. After that, use Warlord purple and cover all the white parts. This will give skin a nice pinkish undertone. Now we can switch to the red ink from Vallejo. For this one coat is enough. Spray it in the bendy areas where you expect shadows to be formed, for example inside of the hand grip and below the hair, around the neck and similar. Now we're gonna use Rosy Flash, thin it down with water like 50-50, and give a general overspray on all the parts. Since it's thinned down, go little by little. Don't make the model wet, rather do 2 or 3 thin coats. At the end we still want to see a bit of the pinkish undertone. After this we're gonna go with the lighter tone. I usually use this only on highlight places, but since Mikasa is pretty pale skinned in anime, we can add this everywhere. A very thin coat, one thin coat is enough, and just spray it around the model. The last one we're gonna use is Dorado Skin from Warpaint's Fanatic. We're gonna use this one specifically on the points where we expect highlights to be formed, like top of the hands and part of the face. After all of this dries up, we're gonna use Reikland Flash Shade from Citadel and spray it lightly into the bendy places and creases, like inside of the hand, around the knuckles, around the neck, below the hair, pretty much everywhere we expect shadows to be formed. Don't know how precise you are, but if you are like me, you probably added a bit much of this shade. So I grabbed Dorado Skin again and make a light overspray over all the parts where we used Reikland Flash Shade, just to tone it down a bit, but it still needs to be visible underneath. So this is it for the skin tones, and let's move on. Now I'm gonna use light green-gray from Vallejo and spray all the signs on the jacket, on the sleeves, on the chest. After it dries, we varnish it and let it dry. Later we're gonna cover these signs so we can paint around them. For the trousers and shirt, I'm gonna start off with the off-white from Vallejo. I wanted her clothes to feel a bit dirty, like they are fighting and everything is dusty and debris is flying around, smoke is everywhere, so the clothes cannot look like they came out from the store. Spray off-white on shirt and pants, and after it dries, use Darkenhof Nightshade and spray it in all the creases. This means usually around the belts and the straps. You don't need to be super precise. You just spray it along the way and spray everywhere where you think the shadows can be formed. After this, use Dark Tone from Warpaint's Fanatic and spray it in the same spots but narrow down the circle. So if you loosely sprayed the Nightshade around the belt, try to use Dark Tone in the same place but closer to the belt. Tighten up the circle. Would you turn around and let the past endure? So tell me, can we ever find the light in the dark where we lost our way tonight? Or are we doomed to wander through the pain, chasing shadows that will never be the same? Well, we're gonna finish this by using the Dead White. In anime, their clothes are pretty white, so we need to get closer to that color. So thin it down a lot and make thin coats over everything. It will start looking more and more white as you spray it, but don't overdo it. All the shades that we use still need to be seen through it. Now we're gonna use some masking tape to cover all the symbols that we sprayed and varnished earlier, and then use grungy brown to spray everything, all the sleeves and the coat. As you can see, you'll definitely need more layers to cover it nicely. If you could see the scars we've left apart, would you turn around or let the past endure? So tell me, can we ever find a light in the darker where we lost our way tonight? Or are we doomed to wander through the pain, chasing shadows that will never be the same? After you're done with that, use Cyborg Brown and spray it in all the creases and bends where shadows can be formed, especially from the bottom of the jacket. Every time you smile, it tears at the seams. One very important thing to note is while you're spraying the sleeves and the jacket, in order to get the nice transitions from one another, fit it while you're painting it, like I do it here. If you don't, later when you glue it, it will look out of place, like you go with the cyber brown and then it suddenly cuts off while you're going from jacket to the sleeves. After you're done with the cyber brown, grab again the grungy brown that we used at the beginning and just spray it lightly over everything. This will tone down the cyber brown and the shades will still be visible underneath, but it will look much more nicer. We're gonna finish it by using Reikland Flash Shade and spray it all over. This will make the leather look more juicy and not so dried up. Now we can switch to the other leather parts on the model. Use masking tape on the pants, cover it up, and because if the brown gets on the white, we will not have a good day. I'm a bit lazy to cover everything, so for the bottom part I just use one of my old pajamas to grab it. Now use grungy brown again and spray this leather skirt. I think it's a skirt, not sure. And also the boots. After it dries up, use again Reikland Flash Shade and spray it all over the skirt and the boots. Last part, we're gonna use a bit of the cyber brown and just spray it in all the creases and bendy areas. Switching over to the gear, we're gonna use metallic color called Tiny Tin, I think, from Vallejo, and just spray it all over. Protect the bottom of the blades and the hand with the masking tape, and use chainmail metallic from Vallejo for the blade. For the gear on the back and side, just spray it with silver from the Atom all over and let it dry. No need to complicate things. Use cyber brown for those little holsters on the torso. And now for the big boy. Let's first use white ink on a base. Spray it from the top, like you're doing zenithal priming. Don't try to force it in every nook and cranny. Make it look natural, like when you're spraying from the top, the paint will come on all the places that a light will usually hit. For the bricks and the stones, we're gonna use Skeleton Horde contrast paint. After that, we're gonna use Strong Tone and just spray it all over. This will add a bit more depth to the bricks. Now we want to get a few different shades on the bricks so they don't all look the same. So we're gonna use a few different colors in random places. First use Satchel Brown speed paint and spray it in random places. After that, do the same thing with the Pellet Bone and the same thing after that with the Peachy Flash. This way we're gonna get distinct bricks everywhere. Not one of them is gonna look the same as the next one. While you have Peachy Flash in the airbrush, spray it over the roof tiles also. And don't forget that little piece, there's a few roof tiles on top of it also. Let it dry and then use red tone over all the rooftop tiles. At the end, grab dark red tone and add it to some random places. Mostly where you expect the shadows to be formed, like where the model's legs come and similar. You can also spray it in few random places just to make rooftop tiles a bit different from one another and add a bit of dimension. We're gonna finish the base for now by adding the satchel brown again on the beams, those wood parts on the base. And that's it for the airbrush, at least for now. So let's switch gears and take out our wet palette.
There's a storm inside my heart, tearing through the pieces of what we were. If you could see the scars we've left apart, would you turn around and let the past endure? So tell me, can we ever find the light in the dark where we lost our way tonight? Or are we doomed to wander through the pain, chasing shadows that will never be the same? I don't wanna slow dance in this endless fight, but I can't let go now before the final night. So give me reasons why we shouldn't break, or leave me here alone in this heartache.
So let's start by finishing the gear. Use silver color to paint, I think it's a gas tank, not sure. You will see that you definitely need more layers here to cover it nicely. So thin the paint down so you don't get left with brush strokes at the end. For the holders around and the little details, I'm gonna use dark gunmetal metallic color. And after you finish with that, go back to the silver and just paint all the nuts, bolts and springs that you see on the model. For these things coming out of the gear, I'm pretty sure these are blades, so I'm gonna use chainmail metallic on them. And after it dries up, use black from Vallejo, thin it down and just drip it into those recesses from which the blades are not coming out. This will make it look like it's a hole and not the decoration or the dead end. The last part is taking a bit of neon oil and painting the springs, so it goes in all the recesses and adds a bit more depth to it. Switching back to the pants, we're gonna use cyborg brown to fix the edges of the skirt, if you need to, and paint all the belts and straps on legs and torso. There are a few pieces that we're gonna use the black on the torso. The first one is at the top of the back, some kind of belt holder. And the second one is on the hips. I think this is some kind of metal plate, so we're also gonna paint it black. Now we're gonna use silver and paint all the buckles that you see on the shirt and the pants. Everything that looks like it could be metallic, just paint it silver. This next part you can do or you don't need to, depends on how you like it. So I took a bit of the neon oil, I thin it down even more and add a bit in the recesses along the pants, around the pockets and around the buttons on the shirt. For these holsters, not much to do here, just add a bit of a silver on the details. Now for these gun looking things on the hips. Man, I don't know how each part of this gear is called. Just take tiny thin metallic and paint most of the recess parts. You will see there is a hole at the bottom where you can see the cables, so use a bit of the chainmail on them. For the holes, always use black so it looks like a hole and not a decoration. For the blades, use silver for the handle and tiny tin for the grip decoration part. You can also use it to paint nuts and bolts that you see on the handle, so it doesn't look too boring. Going back to the jacket, remove the protection. If some brown part got on the sign, it doesn't really matter, we're gonna paint over it. So let's start with the off-white for the right part of the sign, and then we're gonna use Imperial Navy for the left part. You need to go one by one, so the color underneath that we sprayed with the airbrush don't get covered. There's just no way around it. take your time and paint one by one of these feathers. Do the same for all the signs on the jacket. I think there's like 4 or 5 of them. For the little button decorations at the top of the jacket, use weapon bronze metallic paint. Now for the scarf, I used Slaughter Red spin paint, and I did it in 3 layers. You will see when it dries up, it will look a bit dark, but I actually liked that kind of look because the whole model is leaning to this darker, dirtier side, and I don't want to make it so it seems like the scarf made out of the store. Let's take a little break now. Now for the hair, we're gonna use black on it, and if you're scared like me of touching the face, use a bit of a masking tape just to give yourself a security. To get to these deeper parts of the hair, I'm gonna use this long brush. I think it's called a line brush or a liner, and it will give us means in order to reach all these deeper parts that we cannot reach with a smaller brush. Use the same black also on the eyes. Just make a circle on the inside of the eye, because pretty much all anime characters always have this black around the eyes. While this is drying up, we're gonna move back to the base. And for this next part, you can do whatever you want. I'm really not sure what these things are coming out of the roof. Is it dust, flames, smoke? Not really sure. So paint it however you want. For me, I went with a mixture of bone white and wash medium. To add a bit more dimension, we can use Deck 10 to dry brush the bricks. We're gonna add a bit of the edge highlights, and you don't need to overdo it. Pick some places and just dry brush it a little. Now, unfortunately, we need to go back to the airbrush a bit. We're gonna use this Grip Charger Gray, thin it down, and just spray it lightly, very lightly, below the eyebrows to add a bit more dimension. So it looks a bit like a makeup, but not a makeup. Next, take Noon oil and spray it over all the signs that we painted. They're a bit too bright and don't really fit with the theme, so we need to tone them down a bit and make them look a bit darker and more dirtier. If you want, you can also spray it a bit under the gas tank to look like the shadow. Now let's switch over to the dark tone. This is practically the same thing as Noun oil, but I find it a bit stronger. So spray over those dust cloud things in all the recesses and all the parts where you expect shadows to be formed. Okay, we're getting close to the end here. We're at the final stretch and we're gonna finish the head now. We're gonna use off-white to paint the eyes, but leave that black outline that we did around it. So just paint all the white inside and leave the black outline. Now use Cyborg Brown to paint the eye. It's sculpted in the model, so it will be pretty easy just to follow the shape. Use it also to paint the eyebrows, and if you want, you can add a bit of the eyelashes. After that's done, use Imperial Navy to make the iris. Paint over the brown, but also leave the outline that we made with the Cyborg Brown. For the pupil, just use some black and make a dot inside, and make it so the top part of the pupil is not visible. Leave a bit fatter layer of the iris, not just an outline. And now we're gonna use bright sapphire to add to this iris, and it will make it look like the eyes are magical. just add some lines or dot inside of the Imperial Navy that we used before. For the last part, use dead white. Add a bigger white dot in the top left of the corner and a later white dot to the bottom right of the corner. So do this for the every eye and it will look like it has reflections in the eyes. For the lips you can do however you like, you can leave it how it is, but I added a bit of the Magos purple paint and just made it a bit more interesting and not so boring and flat looking. To add a bit more depth to the hair, we're gonna use charcoal from Vallejo and just dry brush the hair. After dry brushing, use neon oil over the whole hair to give it back that wet look. The last part is just to varnish everything. I use a combination of matte and satin, 3:1, and after everything is done, glue all the parts and yeah, that's it. I call this model done and time for a grand reveal. Roll it.
Can you tell me where it all went wrong? We used to dance to every broken song. Now we're just strangers in a crowded room, holding on to ghosts and fading blooms. If I could find a way to make you stay, would you be here or would you drift away? You looked at me like I'm just someone else, guess we were never meant to be ourselves.
I remember when your eyes were like the sky. Now the shadows hiding from the day. Every touch was like a cold goodbye. Every word we speak just fades away. We're holding on to memories so tight, but they're slipping like the sand between our hands. We built a castle in the dead of night, but now it's crumbled and lost in shifting sands.
Can you tell me where it all went wrong? We used to dance to every broken song. Now we're just strangers in a crowded room.
So this is it. I hope you enjoyed the video and I hope you like the final result. If you have any question about the procedure, you are welcome to leave them in the comments. Also, until now I have been picking models that I find cool and amazing, but I would really like to hear your opinions and suggestions for the future videos. So if you find this video helpful, if you liked it, please subscribe, like the video and see you soon in the next video. Bye!